something has happened. Y'all might not have heard any of that. Uh, my restream was acting up just a little bit this morning. Too many tabs open, I do believe. But anyway, rise and shine. Good morning. Let's get the day started. If that came out all wonky or was quiet, well, that's live, such as is the nature of things. Today's topic, absolutely, this is going to be a great topic. Cheaper than store bought, buying eggs from local suppliers. I appreciate all the ones on the Sunday night, the Homestead Sunday, Sunday night social, whatever you want. I think it's Homestead Sunday is what Jack Dyer calls it. And but anyway, we are gonna. Good morning, Scotty. Good morning, Robbie. Glad to see you both in. Uh, nope, didn't hear any of it. Yeah, I had a little malfunction. It disconnected back and forth between my camera speaker and my actual microphone up here and all that stuff. It was technical difficulties. Please stand by, kind of thing. But good morning, Joy Bartlett. Glad to see you in. Anyway, and everybody, the silence that are the quiet listeners in the background. We're going to get into a little bit of conversation about eggs today, but ah, a little bit chilly this morning when I stepped out to feed the dog, and have to say a little bit of a cool down from what we've had the last few days, but still better than it was. But speaking of weather, let's head on over to our friend Jack at Dyer Family Farm for the Redneck Weather Report. Yeah, I know, Scotty. I had one job. I know. Well, actually, I didn't do that. The computer decided to do that. But anyway, good morning, Clyde. Drive safe, buddy. Drive safe. We're going to go on over and see what Jack had to say. Let's see. Where am I at? Share. Here we go. All right.
Good morning, rednecks. It is 52 degrees, March the 3rd, 2025. We got a 17 mile an hour southeast wind, and it still feels like 52. We're going to get all the way to 72 today. God bless y'all.
Well, I believe it's a little bit warmer. Good morning, Jack. I believe it's a little bit warmer out there where y'all are at, even with that wind. It's like feels like it's 40 something and feels like 26 or something like that down here. But either way, we'll take it. Nothing wrong with a little bit of chill down. I shaved off the big fluffy beard and lowered the ears a little bit this weekend. Kind of manifesting spring. I said it's time to come out of hibernation and lighten up the face a little bit. That old beard was getting sweaty. But anyway, so uh, we're anticipating spring. So if it cools down a little bit, my old head's just going to be cold. But I can put on a toboggan or hat. Rare to find me without a hat. But anyway, thanks for that, Jack. Appreciate it. It is time for today's reality smackdown. Trump signs an order. Another one of them orders. Wonder what the count's up to. Ooh, Scotty, listen to this. I'm sorry. Golly. 13 real feel of 8. Good grief. Yeah. And I see, 47 and raining in southwest Arkansas. And yeah, Ryan got a haircut. No doubt about it. Had to do it. Had to do it. It gotten shaggy. But anyway, so back to it. Wonder what the count is up on the number of executive orders that President Trump signed so far. Bet it's pretty high. Anyway, Trump signs an order making English the official language of the U.S. It seemed to me, I kind of thought we were already there, but I guess we had to sign a piece of paper that said so. Uh, anyway, kind of like the two genders thing. I don't know. Anyway, crews are battling wildfires in North and South Carolina amid dry conditions and gusty winds. Evacuations have been ordered in some areas. I also saw where Florida, all the way up to New Jersey, several places up the East Coast have had these string of wildfires breaking out. A little bit of mysterious, kind of strange thing there. Uh, some speculate that it's planned and targeted because of those wanting to build 15-minute cities, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know. Anyway, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz claims Zelensky's team was practically in tears after the Trump clash. Did his country a true disservice. Good morning, Tracy. Glad to see you in with us this morning. A lot about that. I actually could probably sit here and talk about that whole thing and a lot of stuff I read over the last night. Uh, about that yesterday. It's yeah, bad deal, bad deal, bad deal. Anyway, nine arrested at New York Tesla dealership as anti-Musk protests break out. They really don't like that guy taking away their money. Ah, let's see. Where am I at here? Let's see. And let's see. Yeah, Trump signed another pair of executive actions to boost the domestic lumber and timber industries and pave the way for imposing tariffs on imported lumber. More tariffs. And speaking of tariffs, Mexico and Canada will resume as planned on Tuesday, and President Trump will establish their exact levels, according to Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. And more Trump news. Well, let's see. Trump administration moved a team of federal workers who helped build the IRS's free tax filing platform and reworked websites across the government. Doge leader Elon Musk shared a post on social called the team, also known as 18F, a far left government wide computer office. Interesting. I don't know. Anyway, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., RFK Jr., the new U.S. health secretary, said measles outbreak in West Texas has infected more than 100 people and led to one death. Top priority for his agency, and that vaccines will be provided. Well, from what I understand, where this measles outbreak is at is in a religious community that I'm pretty sure is against vaccines. I don't know. We'll see how that works out. But anyway, that is your reality smackdown for Monday, the 3rd day of March. Anyway, let's move it on over. Move it on over. Interesting news out there today. A lot of happening stuff. But anyway, now for this day in history. Interesting couple of years here. They're back to back things. Anyway, 1791, way back. First U.S. Internal Revenue Act, taxing distilled spirits and carriages. So, see, way back in 1791, they started that. And coincidentally, in 1791, Congress established the U.S. Mint. What were they going to do with all that money they suddenly had coming in on taxes? I don't know. Anyway, 1837, Congress increases U.S. Supreme Court membership from 7 to 9. And some of them would like to take it to like 12 or 13. They'd like to pack it out, as they say. It's been, let's see. Anyway, 1837, also, U.S. President Andrew Jackson and Congress recognized the Republic of Texas. Well, well, well. Anyway, now here's a typical government thing. U.S. 1873, U.S. Congress and government retroactively, in other words, they go back, get some back pay, retroactively raise their own salaries. Is that kind of crazy or what? Anyway, who can vote themselves a pay raise? I mean, I'm not voting no. Are you? Anyway, 1923, Time magazine publishes first issue featuring Joseph G. Cannon, Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives at the time. Anyway, so this day, 1923, Time magazine. 1931, the Star Spangled Banner officially becomes the U.S. national anthem by congressional resolution. Anyway, interesting. And speaking of songs, 1956, Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll. First hit in Billboard's top 10, Heartbreak Hotel. Uh, Now, fast forward quite a bit. 1983, Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback Terry Bradshaw is admitted to the hospital for surgery to repair his throwing arm under the alias Tom Brady. Do I hear a conspiracy? Nah, surely not. Anyway, fast forward 1991, LA police officers severely beat motorist Rodney King. The beating is famously captured on amateur video. Later leads to riots when the police officers are acquitted. I don't know how many of y'all remember that. I lived out there, right after all that, during the riot, right after the riots and stuff. It was a scary time out there. 1992, U.S. President George H.W. Bush apologizes for raising taxes after pledging not to. No more new taxes. I remember that. Anyway, and everything after that, I just couldn't bear to put on there. There was nothing great. Anyway, so that was today, March 3rd, in history. Anyway, and let's move right on to the topic of the day. I figure the chat might get a little active now. Cheaper than store bought. Buying eggs from a local supplier. Have to give hats off to Jack Dyer and the chat group last night for helping me with some topic ideas for this week, and figured I'd tackle the eggs straight out the gate on Monday, and then probably move on into the gardening and that type of stuff through the week. We'll see how it goes. But anyway, something could pop up that derails the whole thing. Who knows? Anyway, cheaper than store bought. Buying eggs from a local supplier. And who would have thunk it? Buying eggs from a local backyard flock is cheaper than the world's largest retailer. But indeed, that is the case. Went to the store just the other day, and a dozen eggs were over $6 a dozen. I could have bought the same dozen locally for probably 4 to 5. So, and probably had a better egg, honestly. But I digress on that. But I think we all have experienced it, and I know a lot of the comments and stuff about the prices that eggs were being sold in other places. So there you go. It is a hot issue. And this is a unique time in agricultural world. More and more people are seeking alternatives to the main supply chains. People are wanting better quality foods, wanting to bring their food sources closer to home, which I'm all for. But this presents opportunities for small farms, homesteaders, and some folks who just want to pay for their feed bill. Eggs are the hot topic of the day because of the rise in prices and the shortage on the store shelves. But I submit that farmers markets, farm stores, roadside stands, farm hubs, and CSAs could see a bumper year. And I think that is simply because people are heading back to a different way of getting their food. And it's because of things we're going to talk about. RFK Jr. was able to bring healthy food and what is happening with high processed foods into the national narrative, able to shine a big spotlight on it. This is good for many reasons, but the focus this morning is going to be the fact that more people are going to be looking for healthy alternatives, which will drive them to the above mentioned outlets. So, back to eggs. What's up with eggs? What's up with the high prices and the shortages on the shelves? What's really causing this? First off, they're trying to blame avian influenza. Now, this gets real tricky to kind of sort out. The USDA is saying that the main factor is due to mass culling or killing of the layer hens or layer house forms in the commercial poultry industry. And I will say that the mass killing is pretty much standard practice across the poultry industry, whether it's broilers, layers, pullets, etc. Opponents of this practice say they should cull the sick and keep survivors to breed immunity. And I agree with them. However, there is a difference between a free range, a farm where like you have chickens in your backyard, and even if you do, like Joel does with picking up the farm, moving them around in the pasture and regenerative farming, and doesn't matter how you do your backyard thing. You want your chickens to survive. You want them to last long term. You want them to build immunities and be good chickens and be able to keep your flock. Commercial layers don't work that way. They come into the farm. They're there for about 10 months, and then they're killed out, and they get a new flock. So, building a long-term immunity for chickens to keep 2 or 3 years or whatever, that's not practice in commercial business. It's a very short span. They lay a lot of eggs in that time because of the feeds they're given and everything to promote egg laying. And so after about 10 months, they cycle them out. But anyway, I'll get back to that. I'm gonna go ahead. This is something else that's new. Scotty writes, there's a couple in New Hampshire, and I read about this. They rent out chickens. They rent them out to people during this egg shortage, and that is an interesting way to make money. And oh, by the way, help. They've got the chickens, but they don't got to pay to feed them. Somebody else, the renter, I'm sure is, or their renting is paying for the feed. Quite interesting. I'll have to dig more into it, but I had seen that little blip in the headline on that, Scotty. Creative idea. Okay, so anyway, and as I said, I agree with the idea of building immunity and breeding immunity to these things into the flock. But bird flu is the scariest thing in the poultry industry, commercial industry. It can wipe out entire flocks, and has in other countries in the past destroyed their entire egg supply. So due to this, the companies take the quote, quote, safer method of just eliminating it. They don't take any chances with anything, and that's where a lot of that comes from. Like I said, I personally remember a few years ago, Mexico's egg flock being completely just wiped out. We were sending eggs by the semi-trailer load south to try to rebuild their their egg production. So I mean, it's a big deal, and so that's why I understand it. Now the backyard flocks and non-commercial flocks are in danger because, well, our lovely, highly educated people in the government, USDA, and all that stuff, want a one-size-fits-all solution, and this almost never works out for anyone, especially the small guy who can't afford to meet the standards. It's much like we've talked about with milk. To meet the standards that have to happen, most small producers can't afford all that equipment, and can't afford to meet those requirements. And some would argue that's done on purpose. Now, many of you have been hearing about the police and government agents showing up at farms and destroying the entire flock. Now, there's been a lot of videos. Uh, let's see, what's Clyde got to say? This is a good one. Let's see. Sad to say, but there will be people buy fresh eggs for resale to drive up prices. I actually hadn't thought about that, Clyde. That's actually uh, interesting. Buy them from the fresh guy and turn right around and resell them and mark up the price, which will drive it. I mean, I think that's possible. I hadn't thought about that. That's good stuff. Because I tend to think that the egg layers, they're going to raise the price comparatively, but they're going to stay underneath the market to kind of benefit from this. And we're going to talk to it. That's why I was saying it's an interesting time. But hadn't thought about that because buying it up for resale, interesting. Could happen. Could very well happen. But anyway, let's move right along. Many of us have. That is a fact, Clyde. Bad people do bad things. Yeah, well, they're just in it for a quick buck. You're right. Anyway, many of you have been hearing about the police, government agencies showing up farms, destroying entire flocks. I've seen some videos, read up on some of this, and it's definitely a crazy response. And of course, a huge dose of government overreach. A lot of this is happening at state and local levels. It also happens to be happening mainly in a specific area, as far as I can tell, which is Ohio and Pennsylvania. And I can't prove this without a lot more research, but I would almost venture that most of these farms are Amish. But the attack on the Amish by government's a topic for another day. We'll dig into some, perhaps. And let's see. Well, I went Jack. I made exactly what I paid for the eggs I got from someone else. 0.00 LOL. You wouldn't know who that someone else was, would you? No. But anyway, that's the way it goes, ain't it? That's being a good guy. But anyway, so as far as that, the USDA has begun to roll out a plan to try to fix all this. And I will say again, it's a plan that focuses on commercial poultry. But of course, some do good agents will read into this and try to apply it to the small, non commercial farms. Anyway, let's look at some interesting things about this plan. Now, what I'm about to go into is quite a bit of stuff from Joel and also from maybe might get over to Holly Hickman stuff. So, by now, most of you know that Secretary of Agriculture, they've rolled out a 5-point plan to reduce egg prices. Pretty much the same old, except for a clear interest in offering something besides mass extermination, which is the positive development. Yeah, Jack, I remember you saying something last night about handling business for Clyde and somebody picking up eggs. But anyway, of course, that option in the plan hinges on developing a vaccine. The current vaccine increases the virulence of bird flu. Yeah, what good's a vaccine that's going to make it worse? But that's what's being done experimentally. Poultry industry is pushing back hard on a blanket vaccine because it will stop exports. I'm going to get that. I'll come back to that, Tracy. I will come back to that. Give me just a minute, and we'll talk about some of that. The poultry industry pushing back because it'll stop exports because many countries won't take products from vaccinated birds because they think it makes the strains mutate faster and become more virulent. Duh. I think we've established that. But anyway, and vaccinating chickens isn't like vaccinating cows. Giving millions of chickens a shot is a nightmare logistically, and I would even say virtually impossible. So the academic experts are hoping for a drinkable vaccine, which it isn't even really discussable yet because who knows how far away it is. The first point of strategy is scary. Wants to prohibit any visitors to farms, and any vehicles going in and out must be hosed off both directions. Now, that happens a lot. How should we put it this way? That happens a lot already. I've been on and off farms when we had other illnesses that were not bird flus. We had to disinfect our feed trucks on and off. And in fact, it still is the case a lot of times. But and the techs that go between farms, they have to disinfect their trucks. They have boots that little plastic boots they wear to keep from transmitting things from farm to farm. But my end where I'm going up to pick them up for taking them to the plant, they don't. It's not the same way. But anyway, uh, now Joel said if this would become, it would destroy on-farm business and sales, devastating development for all of us who have an open door and people-centric philosophy. Now again, where he's going there, this is where something that's designed for the commercial industry could hurt the small guy, could hurt the open farm like his or y'all's. But anyway, the other thing they're doing, they're looking at importing eggs from foreign countries. Just wonderful. Yeah, that's worked out well with beef, hasn't it? Anyway, interestingly, they're looking at stopping all the animal welfare cage-free requirements of California. Now, this has nothing to do with the bird flu, but they're blaming cage-free on high egg prices. Uh, and this may or may not be the case, but federal government to involve itself in the marketplace is a dramatic top-down mentality with bureaucrats running the show. And we thought that's what Trump was elected to stop. Not more government, but less. So, here are some facts as stated. I haven't verified all of these facts, but we will see. Let's see. Yes. All right. Let's see. One, waterfowl are not transporting the new highly violent strain, which was created by gain of function in Netherlands, Wisconsin, Georgia. See Dr. Peter McCullough's expose on origins. Ducks aren't dying. Now, this is Joel's statement. I've not verified this. I knew about the Georgia. Me and Keith have talked about that on our show about the labs and gain of function. Ducks aren't dying and they aren't transmitting. Now, that's one thing I've had to question. If this thing's being transported by wild bird life, birds ain't dying. Why? Because they get better. They heal. Same thing can happen with other stuff. But of the 160 million plus chickens exterminated in the last 2 years, think about that, over 160 million in 2 years, a tiny fraction was sick. The lion's share were perfectly healthy. They were killed because they lived near the sick ones. And no responsible thinking, reasonable farmer destroys survivors. We use them to breed the next generation. Now, like I said, somebody who keeps a flock, non-commercial or otherwise, keeps a free-range flock, that's the way you would think. Commercial industry doesn't think that way. Number 3, the PCR test at 45 cycles. It's official protocol. The FDA and USDA is labeled fraudulent by a healthy contingent of scientists. And as he says, at that magnification, you can find bird flu on your dining room table. And it makes you wonder if there's an agenda. 0 studies are being conducted to find out why some birds are immune, why this hits some areas and not others, and other natural and flock immunity options. The paradigm of mass extermination limits the questions bureaucrats ask. Don't test, you don't have to worry about it. But now this is in the commercial stuff. By and large, the farmers don't own the birds being killed in the commercial industry. That's right. The industry owns the birds being killed. That's right. The company owns it. Farmers don't get compensation. That depends on contract. There's a lot more to that. But anyway, but that is fact. The company owns the birds. The farmers just raising them. And anyway, the federal government, by words and action, believe your chickens and mine are part of the national flock. Terminology swept into government verbiage about a decade ago. Your chickens belong to society, to the state. It means government agents can trespass to conduct tests, take your chickens with violence, and incinerate them, even if they show 0 symptoms of illness. This change in mentality rode in on the back of mad cow and hoof and mouth outbreaks in Great Britain. Now, I was just talking about that. I was reading it where, in fact, Doug put out some videos. My off-grid with Doug and Stacy's put out some videos on this. He lives up in that area. And so, yeah, that is a mentality. But like I said, that was a breakdown from Joel Salatin. And honestly, if there's anyone I trust to know about raising chickens and fighting the government, it's Joel. So, there's some different options. In the meantime, it's a great time to be selling eggs from your house. Take advantage of the city slickers that are suddenly looking for eggs they can't find in town. And when I say take advantage, just be there to service the need. Uh, let's keep the prices just under the prices at the store. I know that the work and everything involved is worth much, much more than the price you're charging. But it's time to beat the system, not the drama farmers not getting enough. I agree that farmers have gotten the raw end of the deal. But anyway, well, it's time for you all to get over on the big guys. LOL. What do you think about bird flu, high egg prices, and the USDA's plan? Uh, I'm not sure. I think it's a plan from people who don't know anything about raising chickens, and the consultations have been with the industry leaders, i.e., the head, the poultry industry, not the backyard flock, not the small farmer, and so that um, you know. Tracy asked this question. Ohio needs to change. What direction do we take? Uh, I will tell you, just from what we've experienced down here and are experiencing down here with our milk, is this going to take action from, it's going to take organization. I hate that word, but it's going to take organization from the small farmers, the small producers in Ohio. It's going to take y'all getting together. It's going to take you finding a representative or a legislator. It's going to take uh, finding somebody who will be on your side to help fight this. Now, I don't know what y'all states USDA or not USDA, but y'all states ag and forestry or whatever, but y'all states agriculture uh, direct agency is like up there, how difficult they are. I know Ohio has a lot of farmland. There's a lot of farmers up there, small and large, and but it's unfortunately it's going to take legislative pressure, and the way legislative pressure happens is enough uh, small people get together and create change. You can affect a lot, in the voting block, more in particular at the state level, in the local levels than you can in the federal level. It's I say that to say that we elect our senators and representatives, but then they go up to Washington and join in with the large groups, and we can discuss all those problems another day. But my best advice, honestly, Tracy, is you're going to have to find uh, local people to that are affected by these same things. And comes time voting time, remember in November, as they say, you know, and digging into to your politicians and digging into your bureaucrats in your state and finding out who they are and who controls them, finding out what their stances are on things. Now, I know that Vivek Ramaswamy has announced his candidacy for governor of Ohio. So, I don't know whether that'll be good. I don't know, you know, how some may feel about that, but dude's economically smart. But, you know, and a lot of states need to change. Really, they do. Your neighbors to the east, Pennsylvania, has definitely got some work to do over there. Um, but that's what it takes at all levels. So that really is, excuse me, that really is where that change happens. And right now, I mean, John Moody and company, they would talk about a little peaceful civil disobedience. You do what you do. However, be smart, be cautious. Uh, and so anyway, so that I know that's not a solid like step by step bullet plan answer, Tracy, but like I said, I don't know a lot about Ohio's. Government and which way it leans, or its state agencies and how much power they have. But that's a lot of it right there. Is in the local state, in the state. Find out who your local representative is, your local senator, and kind of get them on board, or get have conversation with them anyway, to try to and they need to be educated, not by industry, but by small farmers. Uh, anyway, Jack was saying, yeah, say kids they help keep customers happy. So there you go. Talking about Clyde there. And that's something else, friends helping friends, neighbors helping neighbors, and that goes a long thing. But anyway, folks, it is time for me to wrap this up. We are at the 30-minute hour. I knew that subject would go long. I had 3 other tabs up there I didn't even get to. But anyway, the most of it about the price of eggs and whatnot. But anyway, so that is the topic of the day. It's a good discussion to talk about because it affects us all, And Clyde, you might be right as far as people gouging the prices and that type of stuff. And yes, Scotty, we are hashtag stronger together. And it is time to wrap this up. So meanwhile, let's move on out of that and go to tip of the day real quick. When your passion and purpose are greater than your fears and excuses, you will find a way. So I'll repeat that again. When your passion and purpose are greater than your fears and excuses, you will find a way. So I like that. It's a little bit motivational, a little bit get your stuff together. Anyway, folks, today is the 3rd of March. We are 17 days and a wake up from Okie Homestead Expo, which means that Keith and I and many others are about 15, 16 days away from Okie Expo. And looking forward to that. It was a lot of discussion last night on the chats about it. But so looking forward to that. I'm not going to blow through for the second time. I'm not going to blow through all of the upcoming events this morning. I will pick them back up. Now, I know April 12th is New Beginnings Homestead Expo in Nowata, Oklahoma. Keith and I will be speaking at that one. So the 10 Killer YouTube meetup, April 25th, 27th, that was talked about last night. Also, the Mid-America, that's May 16th, 17th, and 18th, if I'm correct. Anyway, it's mid-May, Eufaula, Oklahoma. I will get those details out tomorrow. Yeah. So anyway, I'm going to skip through all this. We're running hot on time, and I need to get out of here today and get on down to work. Anyway, glad you liked that one, Tracy. Let's see. That's a wrap for today on the Farm2Table Direct Show Morning Edition. Thanks for joining us as we explore headlines, stories, and more impacting our world today and beyond. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to hit that like button. Give me the old thumbs up. Anyway, subscribe to share it with your friends. Subscribe to our channels on Facebook, YouTube, X, and Rumble. It is the best way to stay connected and help grow the conversation about food, farming, and community. Until next time, keep your roots deep and your vision growing. Good food starts with great people, just like you. Remember, we are hashtag stronger together. Be a blessing to someone, and we will see you all on the other side. I hope you have a great Monday. Everybody be safe out there and be a blessing to someone today. And we will see you all tomorrow morning right back here at 6 a.m. as we begin the rest of this week's conversation about gardening. And also tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, the Farm2Table Direct Show will be on. Keith, myself, and Mr. P. At 7 o'clock tomorrow. I'll let you know more about that in the morning. Anyway, y'all have a great day. Hank, take it away.
No humans were harmed in the production of this podcast.